Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Monday, November 17th, 2025, 3 p.m. land use hearing. As is our tradition, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon to everyone and welcome. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and with me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally and Commissioner John Kafalis. Behind us from the clerk's office, helping us with note-taking and record-keeping for this afternoon, we have Diane Cheney. To my right, we have Christine Luckison from the County Attorney's Office. I will turn things over to Jenny Axmaker, our planning manager. She will do some further introductions and some explanation about today's meeting. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Jenny Axmaker, Planning Manager. I'd like to introduce the staff that we have at the dais and across the way. I'll start out with our newest planner, Laura Collier. No, you actually should know her as Laura Culleton. She has a new last name. So same person, same wonderful planner. We're glad she's still here. And then we have Sam Lasher, also a county planner. We have Ryan Oswendell from our planning administration group. Across the way, we have Aaron Worster from the engineering department, Cassidy Fior, principal planner. We have Connor Sheldon, also from the engineering group. We have county planner J.C. McNulty. And then from the health department, we have Ashton Brodall and Leah Schneider. With that, we respectfully request that all members of the audience silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions. You can grab a copy located just next to the door on the wall over here, or if you're joining us online, you can find that at larimer.gov/BOCC/commissioners-meetings. Please wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Anyone who is disruptive during the hearing will be asked to leave. Please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium. A portable microphone is available as needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide a spelling of your name if it's unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may hear. The microphone on the podium may be repositioned to best capture your testimony. Questions asked during your testimony may be asked during your testimony, but will not be answered until public comment is closed and the rebuttal has begun. Upon request, we do have assisted listening devices available for the hearing impaired. For those of you joining us on Zoom, attendees will be muted until they're recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or requests that a consent item be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Now I'll go through some additional information, including what's on our agenda for today. We have two consent agenda items. The first is the Fernie easement vacation file number 25, land 4491. This is a request to vacate the 10-foot wide utility and drainage irrigation easement along the east property line to allow an existing playhouse to remain in its current location. This is near the Loveland area. And then the City of Fort Collins appeal, file number 25 GNRL 0578. This is an appeal to Article 353G2 of the Land Use Code for the extended use, which is beyond 18 months until December 31st, 2026, of a temporary construction storage area on the property at West Vine Drive. And this is related to the City of Fort Collins Oak Street Stormwater Project. And then we have one item on our public discussion, item, which is the Bear Tribe LLC amended special review, file number 25, zone 3789. And this is an amended special review for a state licensed group home to remove previously approved age restrictions and increase the capacity from 24 to 45 individuals, and the original special review was approved in 2013. So typically items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature, and as far as we know, there's no perceived or significant controversy. items on the consent agenda will not have a staff presentation. The applicant will not get to speak, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment unless the item is pulled from the consent agenda. Commissioners are able to pull an item from the consent agenda, as are members of the public. And for items on the discussion agenda, there will be an entire presentation which we'll go through. So there's 2 items on the consent agenda this afternoon. I'll ask my colleagues, would you want to remove either item from the consent agenda?
I think, Madam Chair, I might move the Fort Collins item from the consent agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez, would you like to remove anything else from the consent agenda?
I concur.
Okay.
Given that we have some new information, I believe that's worthy of a discussion item.
Okay, so the City of Fort Collins appeal file number 25 GNRL 0578 is being contemplated to be pulled from the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to remove only other item from the consent agenda? Please come forward.
Zach Scott. Sorry, it's
That's
a little
okay.
hotter than I thought.
Okay.
I'm also wanting to remove the Fort Collins off the consent agenda. I just wanted to second that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who? All right, so we will bring it back to the commissioners.
Can we check online, Madam Chair?
Oh, yeah,
Pardon
I'm
me.
sorry. Can we check online? Yes, please
If
do.
there are any members of the public online who would like to remove any of the items on the consent agenda, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We have no hands raised.
Okay, so we'll be pulling the one item from the consent agenda, which is the City of Fort Collins appeal. And I will ask Commissioner Gonzalez to make a motion on the one item that's left on the consent agenda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome everyone. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the remaining item on the consent agenda, subject to any conditions of approval as set out in the staff reports, and authorize the chair to sign the findings and resolutions for this item.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. We will hear the Fort Collins appeal after the first discussion item. So our first discussion item is the Bear Tribe LLC amended special review. And just so folks understand how the public hearing goes, we would give 10 minutes. Oh, we'll have a staff presentation. Then we would give the applicant 10 minutes to present their case. We would bring that back to the public. We would have public comment, 3 minutes each for public comment. Then the applicant could have a rebuttal, and then we would bring it back to the commissioners for further questions and deliberation, and a decision would be made. So that's how these next 2 items will go. So we will begin with the Bear Tribe LLC, and Laura Collier is the presenter. Is that correct? All right, Laura, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Collier. I'll be presenting on the Bear Tribe LLC amended special review, file number 25 zone 3789. The subject property is located at 5532 along Highway 36 in Estes Park. This is approximately 5 miles southeast of the town of Estes Park along Highway 36. This property is zoned open, and the property is 38.90 acres. There is an on-site well, on-site septic, and it's serviced by the Estes Valley Fire Protection District, and the property takes access off of the State Highway 36. There are 2 previous land use approvals associated with this property. The first being from 1982, there was approval of a special review to allow for a religious retreat in the open zone district. And this approval included plans to expand and remodel an existing motel resort lodge and provide a facility for year-round activities. And then in 2013, there was approval of a special review for a state licensed group home in the open zone district, and this approval allowed for no more than 24 youth residents on site. The 2013 approval more specifically allowed for no more than 24 youth residents, no more than 12 horses, and their uses were limited to equine therapy for the participants of the residential program. It also included on-site staff trainings, daytime workshops and camps, and biannual fundraising banquets. Today, the applicant is requesting approval of an amended special review for the state licensed group home to remove previously approved age restrictions and increase the capacity from 24 to 45 individuals. And the original approval was approved in 2013, and the property owner is the Bear Tribe LLC. Notice of this application was sent to 10 property owners within 500 feet of the property in June of this year. 6 community members provided comments in opposition to the proposal, which can be found in your packet. Concerns include, but are not limited to, negative impact on property values, potential for impact on surrounding community, and clientele running away to neighboring properties. This is the general review criteria in which the commissioners will base their decision, and the special review criteria, and the Article 4 development standards. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed amended special review meets the criteria in Articles 638D, 642D, and the development standards in Article 4. All comments from referral agencies have been addressed or added as conditions of approval, and we did not receive comments from the referral agencies listed here on the screen. At the Planning Commission hearing in October, there was a staff presentation followed by commissioner questions, an applicant presentation, and then public comment was provided by 3 community members in opposition. Ultimately, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the Bear Tribe LLC amended special review, and the motion passed with a vote of 7-0. And then the following slides I have our suggested motion of approval. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a few, but I'm going to wait till after the applicant's presentation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cavallis? Okay, we'll wait. All right, so I'll ask the applicant to come up now. And then we'll have you state your name, and as was stated, you would have 10 minutes.
Absolutely. It's very nice to see you all this afternoon. For the record, my name is Bob Choate. I'm here with my client, Chris Porta, who is the owner of the facility and the one who has been operating it under that special review since it was approved in 2013. And please apologize. I apologize for my still having the Planning Commission on there. It's the same presentation. We won't take very long. Happy to answer any questions you may have, but a couple of things I'd like to go over. And just a little bit about the property. It's not the kind of property that you would generally see developed as it is now, but it was developed that way back in 1982. And so what we're asking for is an amendment to the existing facility. And I want to make it very clear we're talking about making this a better operation overall. It's a few miles outside of Estes Park, outside of the Estes Valley planning area. It's on Highway 36. It's directly across from Jellystone, which is that commercial campground that's been there forever, decades. So it's not a highly densely residential area or anything like that. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is an outline. It's about a little under 40 acres, but the majority of that is on this pretty steep mountainside. All of the improvements are located down closer to the highway near the Little Thompson River. Can you go to the next slide, please? And to be clear, I think this is my last slide. So this kind of shows you the existing facilities that are on site and the location of the dormitory and kitchen and the homes and septic fields and things like that. As Ms. Collier said, this has been used since before the early 80s. It was a motel lodge before that. I don't know how long, but for a very long time. And then it was used as a religious retreat. And then it's been used since sometime in the 90s as a group home, and under the prior owners. When Chris came in, she relocated her business here and got the special review permit. And a little bit of a distinction here. Chris didn't have the assistance of a planner or an attorney or anybody to help her through that process. And while the county staff at that time were very helpful, they just said, "What do you want?" And she told them what her business plan was, and that's what made the confines of the current special review permit. It did not allow her any sort of flexibility that might be necessary as the market changes, and the market has changed. In fact, the real impetus for this change is to get rid of the youth limitation. So it's only juveniles right now, because the cost of insurance, and she can answer any questions or tell you about that, but the cost of insurance has skyrocketed, and it's impossible to run a business with that requirement. So the idea here was, when she approached me, was I need to get rid of this restriction on only youth. We want to have adults. And so that's the primary reason for applying for the change. And then I said to her, "Well, okay, what else is there if you're going to make a change?" And this limitation, she was, I think, licensed for up to 48 people under the state license. So that was just her business plan, 24. And I said, "Well, can the property hold 48 people?" And we did a thorough analysis of the existing facilities that are on site, water, septic, all the stuff, and we came up with the number 45, which is accurate. And we really appreciate working with county staff to help us get to that point. So that's the reason for the increase in number. It's an appropriate amount of people that the property can reasonably serve, given this context. And there's a lot of documentation in the packet to support that. We do understand some of the neighbors have not been supportive, but Chris maintains a good relationship with everybody, and we understand this is maybe just not the kind of thing that someone wants next door. But again, it's already an existing facility, so we're asking for your approval today. There's a lot in there in that packet. Happy to answer any questions you may have or address any comments that the public may have.
Great. You guys you want any more of your time? Are you ceding your time?
Can I just reserve it for response if need be?
Sure.
I'm not going to waste your time regardless.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have you stay up in case. Are there any questions that you want to ask of the applicant? Go ahead, Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to clarify, there was going to be rebuttal time for five minutes, or is this so that the other time is that added on, or just so he knows he has just 5 minutes for rebuttal time, or?
Yeah, you'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal time.
Okay.
That's fine.
My first question is, previously the approved rate, age restrictions was 12 to 17, and when it says it wants to remove it to make it for all ages. So I'm curious how that works with a group home or with this facility, because we do behavioral health services and other things, and there is state laws that, and I know this is probably with your licensure, but how does that work? Because the youth have to be no sights, no vision, no sound between the different age groups. So how does your licensure work with that? If you remove that, because looks like that, they would. I don't know how that works with all the different buildings, but I'm wondering what that looks like.
Oh, okay. I can see that's confusing. It's just to be able to do, we would never mix youth with adults. So would be 18 and up or 17 and below. So we would never mix them. It's just for the zoning purposes to not have that restriction. Because as Bob said, I thought I was supposed to be super detailed when I did this in 2013. So it's not to mix kids and adults.
And with your state licensure, you're aware of the requirements?
Absolutely.
And so that you have already applied for that? No, that's...
I have not applied for it yet because we're waiting to see if we're going to get this approved. So.
All right, thanks. And when you talk about only having 12 horses in equine therapy, are you using the property for any of the equine therapy, or taking the horses on trail rides, or what does that look like?
We actually don't have horses at this time. I'm not sure that we plan to get them again because of the expense of an equine therapy program. So I retained that, but I've retained it as a possibility. But in the current financial plan, it's pretty expensive. But it would only be for equine, so people on the ground, not on riding the horses.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, not riding.
Because it may not be doing it now, but if it's approved, it could come in the future. And so I think knowing what is the plan, if there ever was,
Only
is it
yeah.
on those grounds in equine therapy, or are you looking to take folks on trail rides, and then where
No.
would you go? So
No trail rides, nothing off the property, on the neighbor's property, just done with people on the ground, interacting with the horses and their therapist.
and then with your group home and the state licensure, the reason I ask is because I am involved with and touring some other facilities in the area, and I know that some of the challenges they're all having. You would just be looking for that group home status. You're not going to be looking to have any of the involuntary holds or anything like that at your facility.
Voluntary.
Okay. Because of certain insurance things, sometimes the state's saying you have to take this person. So I know it's been happening in that area.
Right.
And then the last question I have for now is with any changes in growth or any of these additions, are you looking to do a lot of any? Is it just a change of use? Or are you looking to expand? And I know it's in the packet, but I just wanted to ask you, any expansions or more lighting or things like that?
More lighting on outside?
Mm-hmm.
No more lighting. And I know our planner spoke with
Night sky stuff and important,
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of important for that area. So,
it is, yeah.
Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cafalas.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, folks. I have one question at this time, and that is, one of the proposed conditions of approval states the applicant shall provide the Larimer County Health Department with a formal D-rating determination document from CDPHE, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. What is a formal D-rating determination document?
So there was some confusion about the septic because it was put in the 80s of whether it was governed by the state or by the county. And so nobody really knows how that went back then. So it's a formal document from the state saying that this system can be regulated by the county because it will be used for 2,000 gallons a day or less, which is the way we've been using it. And we did get an approval in 2013. But I guess since then they've added this formal process. And so we had to pay for that and go through this where they look at the septic and then they say to the county, okay, we're good with you regulating that septic system.
No, thank you. That's helpful. And I think I'll also ask our public health folks to comment on that at the appropriate time to add to your response. Thank you, Connie.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. The only question I have is maybe just speak a little bit, and you'll probably do some of this after the rebuttal if we hear from some of the neighbors, but some of the emails and responses we got were around neighbors. So can you just maybe give us just a little lay of the land of where your neighbors are, how close they are, if there have been issues in the past around neighbors and maybe trespassing?
So Jellystone's right across the street, and then up on the hill, there are houses up there, and then sort of on the hill that go towards Estes. And then we have one neighbor, is that to the northwest, and her property abuts ours. So we have the dormitory, and then there's a very big field, and then she has a very big field, and then her house. I don't know, 3 football fields maybe, and then down the hill, there's butts our other field butts our pond, and then their field, and then their house is sort of way up in way up behind. So there's nothing right there except Jellystone. There have been a few incidences where we had one recently where somebody walked up to the neighbors, and they might be on here, I'm not sure, and he got turned around and he apologized, and he sent me an apology email. So there have been a few times, not on purpose, by accident, and we've talked to the neighbors about that. Please let us know. We're so sorry if it happened. But everyone coming in gets the rules packet, and these are our boundaries, and everybody's supervised. So it has happened a few times over the years, but very few.
Thank you.
And we are very amenable to the feedback, and please don't do that again, and this is what happened. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
There was one, and it's in your packet, and someone spoke about it, but there was one incident in the last 12 years where someone went across the highway. One of the youth, the juveniles, maybe more than one, but anyway,
Two, yeah.
they went over there and they caused damage, and but that was a singular incident that occurred, and we heard more about that during the Planning Commission comment from the public.
Great. Thank you. Anything else before we let the applicants go? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. And recognizing that our purview is regarding adherence to the land use code, I guess I'm just wondering. I think you've clarified about that you would primarily be serving adults. I mean, and these are folks who are dealing with behavioral health issues, substance use disorder, and so forth. And there's a licensing process, of course, with Department of Public Health and Environment. So is your facility considered a residential treatment facility? What exactly is it, and what's the payment method for folks who might benefit from the services you provide?
The payment method is primarily private insurance,
Private insurance.
and then there's co-pays and things.
So it's not
co-insurance and
it's
co-pays.
not people on Medicaid necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But people by choice could, Medicaid. That is a long story, and if you can get a Medicaid contract, but again, the voluntary client.
And what is your designation?
I guess it's residential treatment program, RT. It depends with kids it was a little different than with adults. So it depends on the actual license that you get. There's a couple different licenses. You get substance abuse only, and I believe I'm not sure what they call it.
You'll need.
I can look it up.
You
I
would
don't know
work
what they're
on.
calling it right now.
Okay. I'll let it go with that.
Okay.
I guess.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, we'll ask you to sit down. We'll do some public comment, and you can come back up for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, is there anyone in the audience who wanted to give public comment on this issue? Okay. I don't see any hand raised. Let's ask online, Ryan.
If any members of the public online would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. There are no hands raised.
Well, thank you. Thanks for checking on that. Last chance for anyone who wants to speak. All right, then we'll close public comment. No rebuttal needed since there were no one speaking. So we will see if the commissioners have any further questions. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask this of staff. In the packet on page 201, it talked about the domestic water and the permit expiration that had expired on April 1st, 1988, and then there was another one issued in 2001. It sounds like there's no concerns, but can you maybe just help us? I mean, I've read this packet, but I'm wondering, can you just expand a little bit, maybe clarify for me about the wells and kind of, we have that with older properties, kind of the changes with whose area in the state, and it talks about, pumping rate and all that, and I'm just wondering I know you looked at this and you say it's adequate, but I just wanted to kind of dig into that just a little bit more.
Okay, I can try a little bit. I'll keep that over there. So, and are you kind of asking like the kind of our authority over like the different agencies involved and
That and as you know, I personally have a septic system. I know how the challenges there, and this is almost a double. And I'm not sure, you know, these older systems, and I'm just
so
curious.
wastewater?
Yeah, and all that, since especially since it's so close to the river
Oh,
and things.
right.
So I'm just that was then. That would be a little bit more things happening and protections now. So I'm just curious about a little bit more clarification on that for me.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. To explain, I'll explain the water wells. They have water wells. They are licensed to the Division of Water Resources, but because they serve a population over 25 people, they have to have it also approved by the state health department's water quality control division because it has to have adequate treatment with chlorine. There's contact time. They have to have a certified operator on site to maintain that. But for the wastewater system, that one was a little bit that was difficult because they have two septic systems on there right now. When their initial review came through in about 2013, around that time for the youth, they installed a new septic system just to support the kitchen area. So that's about 2014, 2015, and that's just for the food service. The rest of the system, or the rest of the facilities, were all connected to an older septic system that was approved in 1982 or so. It was an old Baptist church conference facility that could support 180 people with a full kitchen, hotel, everything. So that capacity was over 10,000 gallons per day, and we're going through a formal derating process with the state health department to reduce it to less than 2,000 gallons of water per day that the septic system would receive. So it won't have the same, I guess you could call it discharge coming from the tank to the field. So the impacts would be reduced, and if the applicant had not decided to go this derating route and stick with the larger, over 10,000 gallons per day system, the state health department was going to have them apply for a state level wastewater discharge permit because it is near the river.
That's why I was asking those questions, because I'm aware of that. I was a little
Very good.
worried about that, so I wanted to hear about that. So, any other details?
I will say one of the things, because we are dropping that to 2,000 gallons, we've asked for several conditions because we are kind of reorganizing some plumbing out there. We're setting some occupancy limits, things like that. But some buildings will be connected to that older system to limit it to 2,000 gallons per day. And then we'll have the kitchen connected to the existing septic. I can't remember all the details. We are very involved in the process, but it's mostly our water quality program that's going to be reviewing. But the goal is to take some of the housing on site. We're going to remove the ability to have it as a house to reduce the flow rates coming out of there. So they'll strictly be offices with like a hand sink and a toilet. So no more showers, laundry, things like that in several of those spaces, just to keep the flows very low.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Leah, appreciate it very much. Madam Chair, I had another question, if that be okay?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. So, staff, I guess, Mrs. Collier, I wanted to ask about, when I look at this map and I see the residential offices that are proposed, we have certain setbacks. I know these are older buildings that have already been built, and they say there are no changes, but if there's changes in uses and stuff, this is the reason for my question. But I see there is no setback for some of those buildings that are right on the river, and there's a lot of folks downstream, and so I'm curious about setbacks in the future, if there's any changes or
Yeah, if there were any additions to the buildings, those would trigger our current setbacks, which a variance would be required for those most likely. But as it stands right now, they're not proposing any new structures or additions, so I think they're all set with the setbacks at this moment. But I do believe the applicant is aware of our current setback requirements. I mentioned in a few comment letters.
awesome. And may I just ask, the one that says Building B in the map that's up on the screen right now, that looks almost like it's in the river. Do you happen to know the setback for that, or how far it is, or how close?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can pull up this is not a site plan that was done by staff, but I could pull up an aerial image that might give us a better
That would be great, because right
image.
now it's looking like it's
Yes,
in the
one
river.
moment.
There, that's better.
And the blue line shown on the screen is not always accurate as to where the exact location is
Of the
of the river
river.
itself, yes.
Can you just show me where you think the river is? Because right now it's looking to me like it's going through a building.
I would say it probably goes along here, but I would let the applicant maybe come up and talk more because I personally have not been to the property.
Is the applicant willing to come up and kind of maybe point or kind of?
Yeah. So you can see the road on the farthest left side, right? The road going through, and then you can see the sand. It is quite close. That looks like it is quite close to the building. But the river, so where you can see sort of the sand is not the river. It's a little more, okay, I don't know how to point it out to you. I mean, I don't know if it helps, but during the 2013 1,000-year flood, none of the buildings were damaged. So, but it's, I mean, I don't know how to show you. You want me to go over and try to point on the map?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Because right now it's showing it going through the middle of your building.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay, so it's right here. Right here. And
Okay,
then,
that's helpful.
yeah, and then a little, that black line that goes right through the green there.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I'd also like to add that most of these buildings were constructed in the 1930s. So
Yeah, I know. So things have changed. We've had a few floods. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Well, I had looked this up and I thought it shows the river going through the building. That looks a little odd. That's why I had to ask. And then I think back to my question for staff, with the increase in capacity to 45 and now have adults and adults have cars. And I think I read this somewhere, but I was having trouble going through it. Have you adequately looked at how much parking and traffic and that kind of?
yes, we also have Connor here from engineering. I think we discussed this before. A lot of the times people would be dropped off at this kind of facility rather than needing to park their own car. But we did find that there was adequate parking on site, given that possibility of people driving as well. I don't know if Connor has anything else to add.
Nothing for parking, but for access, they are working with CDOT to make sure their access points are in compliance with CDOT's requirements.
Okay, that was probably a lot of my part of my question too. All right, and so will that be a condition of approval? They have to get that compliance? I think it was, but I just want to clarify.
Yes, it is added as a
Okay.
condition.
All right, I read that, but I just want to just state it for publicly because I want to make sure. All right, I think it's all I have, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cavales.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up to my question of the applicants, Leah or someone from your team, could you say a little bit more about what a D rating determination document is from CDPHE and also how that relates to the other condition of approval that regarding an updated wastewater system that will need to accommodate the additional people that may be there?
Oh, that condition from the previous findings and resolutions that we're removing?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you mean that when you refer to the condition, is that we're trying to remove an old condition of approval that said they were required to upgrade to a state system if they were to expand?
Yeah, I guess I'm in particular curious what is a D-rating determination document?
Okay. That is just a formal process through the state health department under their regulation 22. At one point, when this was the Baptist church, CDPHE did review the plans. Unfortunately, their record keeping is not very good, so we had a really hard time tracking that information from CDPHE. So the alternative, so the applicant had the option, they could go through a process to actually get a wastewater discharge permit, or they could demonstrate that they are not exceeding 2,000 gallons per day through water records, and we can use those records at the state health department. They can say, okay, you're no longer a state system over 2,000 gallons, and we'll let you be regulated underneath the local jurisdiction. So they're currently in that process. I actually just got documents from CDPHE to sign recently through the applicant, as well as other agencies around our area, including like the North Front Range Planning Association for wastewater, and then I'm probably a planning representative, things like that. So there's a check-off list that a number of agencies will have to sign off on in addition to the state health department.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thanks, Leah.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
You all know I'm going to ask wildlife questions. So on page 231, when I was reviewing this, I know it says, and by the way, I really like this report, by the way, just well done. I wanted to ask when you, the recommendation, and also just can you expand on how you have explained to the applicant that any new structures or any alterations would warrant further environmental review since it's so close to the river, and also I know several of the eagles and also the purple jumping mouse and that riparian areas are just really important areas for wildlife and watersheds, and so that's the reason for my questions. And I'm just and I'm very familiar with the Lady Tresses when I hike, so I'm curious. What is the what have you talked about, and is that understood that any changes would require more involved environmental review?
Okay, thank you for that question. I am going to ask my colleague a question real quick because I'm not an environmental specialist, but one moment. Okay, so if the applicant did propose any new structures and they potentially needed to be reviewed under, for a variance, our Article 4 standards and our, like, environmental standards, environmental planner could evaluate those. But just given their proposal at this time, it didn't trigger any of those requirements for like a wetland delineation or anything. But our environmental planner wrote the comments just giving them a heads up of what could be required in the future if they were to expand into those areas.
Thank you, and I did appreciate those comments, but I guess I want to just be clarified for the public record that for this that was discussed and made clear. So for future activities. So thank you. I think that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Claus, anything else? Okay. If there's no other questions, we can move into deliberation. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, I'll let you get started.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Familiar with this property, driving back and forth my whole life up the canyon to Estes Park, and not my whole life because I don't think it was there in the 1960s. But I appreciate the history of this location, and appreciate the applicant working with Mr. Choate and trying to find work with staff to find, the right way to go forward, and appreciate the challenges that have with having all ages on the property. It does sound like, the before it was a lot more people, but the system was, and I appreciate the idea of maybe deregulating to protect the river, and that really is important value for me. Also, I think when we look at all the criteria, and reading through all of those, I feel that it has met all the facility criteria, and especially under sub articles, on section Article 4 and the drainage, and then also just the development standards in Article 4, and talking about all those, and from the referral agencies, I do feel for the special review criteria that a lot of those have been met, and I don't have any other outstanding concerns with my questions being answered today. I do appreciate all the 19 article conditions of approval, and appreciate trying to get the app permit for the Colorado Department of Transportation, because it is a pretty well traveled highway and a lot of high speeds, and I do interact a lot with the neighborhoods across the street and to the northwest, and I know that's a complaint, is just a lot of increased traffic and recreational traffic. So with that, I don't think I have any other concerns, and so Madam Chair, I think I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kafalis.
Yes, thanks again, Madam Chair. Thank you to Bob and the applicant for being here presenting. I think the fundamental question at hand is to amend the previously approved special reviews to allow for to change the limitations on age, expand the ability to serve adults, and also the capacity up to 45. I think that's the question at hand as it relates to the land use code. I certainly appreciate the written comments that we received from neighbors up there in that neck of the woods, and it seems like there's a willingness and there is a history of communication to try to resolve any kinds of neighborly issues. So I think that's also very important. And then finally, we are charged with doing our best to interpret the land use code. And based on the presentation from staff, in terms of a special review, amended special review, we're looking at two sections of the land use code, Article 6.3.8D, general review criteria, and then the special review criteria, which are in 6.4.2.D. And based on the discussion, the presentation, those criteria are met, and in addition to the 19 conditions of approval, which put things in perspective. So therefore, that's all to say, I too will support this application.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll support the application as well. Appreciate you coming forward. Understand that maybe the first application you did, you wanted to provide that specificity, but that model doesn't work for your, business any longer. I definitely think that review criteria is met, and there's quite a bit between the general and the special review criteria. I do appreciate the neighbors weighing in, because I think that's really a really important piece. Seems like there's some mostly kind of safety and trespassing type issues. And I trust that those will be resolved between you and the neighbors. I think that would come up when there's just additional people at a location. But understanding where the neighbors are in relation was really helpful for me too. It feels unlikely that people are going to trespass to a large degree, and that there's that you're kind of setting those boundaries from the beginning. So I appreciate that. And then I think anything else for me that we're kind of concerns, I think, are addressed with the conditions of approval. So, having to provide the emergency preparedness plan, because we heard some people talk about wildfire and, some of the concerns, but it's, also you have some ability to address that on site, it sounds like, with a hydrant and other kinds of things. So, Yeah, I'm in support of this. I appreciate you coming forward and sort of explaining your business model and how things work, and the fact that there's no horses now. Sounds like I think one of the conditions, if there are horses, there has to be separate water for horses or something like that too. But yeah, I think that we're definitely meeting the criteria here, and happy to vote in support. So I will ask Commissioner Shattuck McNally to make the motion on this item.
Madam Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, or I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm trying to see, where is it? You have it up there? Okay, there it is. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Bear Tribe LLC amended special review, file number 25-CONE 3789, subject to the following conditions listed on the screens 1 through 19, I believe.
1 through 20.
1 through 20. And Madam Chair, just a quick comment. I wanted to say I did read through and look and understand the concerns of the neighbors, and I did take those into serious consideration. I appreciate them reaching out, and I do encourage the applicant and owner of this facility to really work hard to not just once, but continually reach out to neighbors and keep those relationships strong, and communication is best for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. Thank you. All right, so we will move on to the item that was moved off the consent agenda and moved on to the public hearing agenda, and that is the City of Fort Collins appeal, file number 25 GNRL 0578. Cassidy Fiore is with us, and I assume we'll be doing the staff presentation. Just a reminder for the applicant, it will be the staff presentation, 10 minutes for the applicant, public comment, both online and in person, and a rebuttal from that public comment, and then bringing back to the commissioners for any additional questions and deliberation, and then a decision. So with that, Cassidy, we're ready for you whenever you're ready.
Thank you, and much appreciated while we played musical chairs. As mentioned, my name is Cassidy Fiore. I'm a principal planner here at the county, and today I'll be presenting on the City of Fort Collins Appeal 25-GNRL 0578. The project is located on the corner of West Vine Drive and North Taft Hill. It's unaddressed, hence the references to the parcel number. It's approximately 37 acres in size, and it was purchased originally by the city for a future stormwater detention and flood control system, as well as a natural area. And it's currently jointly managed by the city's stormwater utility and natural areas departments. The owner is the City of Fort Collins, and today we have the applicant with us, who is Heather McDowell with the City of Fort Collins Stormwater Division. The surrounding land uses include the actual site land uses, my apologies, are vacant and temporary construction storage, as well as natural areas, and the surrounding land uses are primarily rural residential. The existing zoning of the site is rural residential 2. Access is off of West Vine Drive, which is a minor arterial. Water and sewer are provided by City of Fort Collins Utilities, and fire protection is provided by Poudre Fire Authority. For some background, this is a 2.5 acre portion of the site, which has been used by the city stormwater utility for material and dirt storage since 2012. Currently, the construction firm that's contracted to complete the Oak Street Stormwater Project is using that portion of the site for their temporary construction storage. I do have a larger version of the site plan available if needed. The appeal request specifically is an appeal to Article 3.5.3.G.2, which is storage for construction projects temporary, which in the Land Use Code limits use of temporary construction storage areas to a maximum of 1 year. The Community Development Director may approve an extension of 6 months upon written request that details the reasons for the requested extension. The city has been granted the director-approved 6-month extension, which would permit the use of the site until December 31st, 2025. An appeal is required for any further extension of that time. I will note that at the time the director-approved extension was granted on June 26, 2025, it was noted that while construction activity is ongoing, additional proactive mitigation of impacts to neighbors regarding noise, dust, fumes, and erosion control, which could include additional track pads, street sweeping, reduced truck idling, dust control, and other measures, was requested by the director. The City of Fort Collins has indicated that their project for the Oak Street stormwater is anticipated to continue beyond the end of 2025 and is therefore requesting an appeal to Article 3.5.3.G.2 to permit the use of the site as a temporary construction storage area for an additional 12 months or until December 31st, 2026 to support the completion of that project. Community notice was provided to property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. We did receive 3 neighbor comments. 2 requested additional information, particularly as it related to where the parcel was actually located, and 1 provided comments in opposition. Concerns are largely related to air and noise pollution and are detailed in the memo that was provided to you today. Notice was also provided by posting in the designated area of the county building, by posting on the larimer.org website and newspaper publication. We also sent this referral out to 8 referral agencies, including Larimer County Code Compliance, the Larimer County Department of Health and Environment, Larimer County Environmental Planning, Larimer County Engineering, City of Fort Collins, Poudre Fire, WAPA, and the Canal Irrigation Company. Those referral agencies that provided a response that, other than no comments, are bolded in my presentation. As a result of those comments, an applicant response was provided as a second submittal in response to those comments and indicated that if the request was approved, they would take appropriate action to address those comments. Additional engineering comments were received last week, also attached in the memo as the first page, indicating that staff could support the request based on the additional information provided. As a result of those referral comments, we do have a number of requested conditions of approval related to removing a second access and requiring a county floodplain permit. We also requested a condition of approval to ensure that restoration for this particular project, so after the temporary construction use is over, would not be detrimental to the future plans for ultimate restoration for the natural area and stormwater project. Health comments did note that the site is subject to a CDPHE construction stormwater discharge permit and is also required to adhere to the Larimer County Noise Ordinance. And updated engineering and floodplain comments received last week have indicated, as I mentioned, that the additional materials provided by the applicant satisfied their previous concerns. For the review criteria, they include, for an appeal, the approval of the appeal will not subvert the purpose of the standard requirement. Approval of the appeal will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or property values in the neighborhood. Approval of the appeal is the minimum action necessary. Approval of the appeal will not result in increased costs to the general public. And approval of the appeal is consistent with the intent and purpose of the code. In this case, staff have found that these criteria have been met as described in the provided staff report. The Development Services team recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the City of Fort Collins appeal, file number 25-GNRL 0578, subject to the following 5 conditions, as shown on my screen, and happy to discuss those in more detail. And with that, I will end my presentation.
Thank you, Cassidy. Any questions? Commissioner Shannock McNally?
Good evening, Cassidy. Thank you for your report. I just want to go back to the review criteria number B. Approval of the appeal will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or property values in the neighborhood. And I do, reading some of these comments from the neighbors, talking about, I think it was talking about having to smell diesel in the morning and the site, not, some of the storage and some of the maybe the smoke and the noise all day, and then just the visual pollution with a lot of the storage. So can you expand on how that's being changed, or why that is not detrimental to, why that is not detrimental to the public health and safety values of the neighborhood when it's a next door neighbor experiencing those things? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. I will let the applicant speak to the prior use of the property up until the point at which they came to us for this appeal. But it is our understanding and it is staff's opinion that with the proposed additional mitigation measures required for the director's extension of time, so the additional 6 months, and those mitigation measures that were requested at that time through her extension, as well as the conditions of approval and renewed commitment to ensuring that standards are met on this site, we would be able to satisfy that condition. As part of the application, the applicant has provided additional information and documentation showing additional mitigation measures have been implemented on this site as it related to dust tracking and some other of the complaint-related aspects of this, and we did feel that they could meet our standards for this use on this site.
Thank you. And that does include the diesel smoke and smell and because that could be a public health challenge for neighbors.
I would let Leah speak to some of the noise and smell related complaint piece.
I know I feel bad. I only found out about the public comment today. So, but yes, air quality regulations do apply to this site, even though it doesn't require an air pollution control division air permit, because technically the active construction is off-site. But there is grading and everything. It just, but they are still required to follow Reg 3, Reg 1, which all reference dust control. Reg 2 references odor control. So there's a number of regulations that should still apply, even if you do not have an air permit emissions notice or a permit.
And Madam Chair, who is responsible for enforcing that or monitoring that?
That would be us, yeah. Had I known, we would have been out there. So we are more than happy to go out to the site to check in on Fort Collins.
Okay, I'm just curious because we have this public complaint. I just wanted to make sure we're addressing.
Yeah, there's a few of them, so yeah, we'd love to. Yeah, well, we will go out now that we've seen them.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cabalas.
I think I'll wait till after we hear from the applicant and kind of go from there.
Okay. So we'll bring the applicant up to discuss. And as a reminder, you'll have 10 minutes, and if there's several of you, you'll split the time accordingly.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Boster. I'm the Deputy City Attorney for the City of Fort Collins. And I have with me Heather McDowell, who is an engineer with our stormwater utility, and she has a very brief presentation for our appeal.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us today. I'll just spend a couple of slides explaining a little bit about the project itself and then get into the review criteria. You can go to the next slide. The Oak Street Stormwater Project is a big stormwater initiative that we are conducting in the downtown area. We've been working on reducing floodplain in downtown Fort Collins since about 2000. Most of the floodplain has been addressed on the east side of College, and then our initiative for the next 20 to 25 years is to remove floodplain on the west side of College. So the first project as part of that effort is along Oak Street. You may remember us being out in front of your building about a year ago. We are working down the street at the moment. This project represents over a $40 million investment in the downtown area. The project is vital to the long-term resilience of our downtown core, and it aims to mitigate flooding and stormwater quality before it all falls to the river. You can go to the next. As part of a project of this scope and scale, having a designated site, often away from the project itself, for material storage and dirt stockpiling is common, particularly for projects in downtown areas such as this. The map shows the location of the project site itself, kind of boxed in yellow there, and then its proximity to the storage site on Vine and Taft. Again, this is a City of Fort Collins owned parcel. It's about 37 acres in size. It was originally purchased for that future capital project, which is a flood control detention basin, as it were. That project is not on a priority list for the city at the moment. It's still very much in the future. But we are utilizing this site. So stormwater operations had started storing some dirt there in about 2012, sometime after the property was purchased. They're using that 2.5 acre size to store primarily just soil. The use of their use of the site was pretty intermittent. It was not daily like ours is. You can go to the next. So similar image to what Cassidy showed. On the left there is just the pad site that we are utilizing as part of this property with some call outs on it. So the pad site is kind of a built up area and it's bounded by an 8-foot tall barrier fence on the west side. It's bounded by kind of a berm on the south and east sides, and then of course there's an access dirt road that comes off of Vine Drive. There are physical barriers around the pad site itself with the idea that the operations we're doing there are less visible and less audible. The remainder of the 37-acre parcel is untouched by our operations. It's very much vegetated and naturalized as it should be. The city Natural Areas Department still maintains and mows that the rest of that parcel. The Punta Verde area, which is the rest of the parcel, includes a recycled asphalt trail that connects Vine Drive to Taft Hill with signalized crossing at both areas. This natural area helps connect schools to the neighborhood and the Pooter Trail. I think that's all I want to say about that. And then, yes, the reason we're here today is to request a deviation from the standard. We are requesting an additional 12-month time extension. A project of this size is pretty long duration. We've always known that it's going to be approximately a 2-year duration. So we anticipate finishing the project in about August of next year, and then we will need some time after that to restore the property back to its kind of original topography. Spend some time with the Natural Areas group has put together a restoration and revegetation plan for us. So that work would be happening starting next fall. And the rest of my presentation really is kind of an overlap of what you put together, Cassidy, so I don't know that I need to go through that.
Anything further? You got 5 more minutes.
Nothing further, but we're open to questions.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Any questions for this team? Commissioner Cafalas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Just a couple of questions. I think I heard that you're anticipating the Oak Street stormwater improvements project you're anticipating it'll be done by August of next year, and then you would begin the restoration. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct, yes.
And I think one of the concerns that we heard from some of the written comments that we received had to do with, I mean, it's currently a natural area, Puente Verde natural area, and you spoke to that. How have you addressed any potential safety issues for, kids using the trail to get to Irish or things like that?
Well, I guess I will back up and say the safety issues that have been pointed out to us since we've been using the site primarily are around dirt track out onto Vine Drive. We had one comment come from a cyclist riding down Vine Drive that there was a lot of dirt. So we have really stepped up our efforts in terms of keeping Vine Drive clean. We've added some additional erosion control tracking pads out there to kind of help with that effort. And then we are doing street sweeping at least once a week out there to make sure that Vine Drive is clean. In terms of making sure that anyone that's using the trail is, well separated from the work that we are doing, There's no physical barrier between the road itself and the trail. However, it's a pretty big distance, and it's naturalized. It's very vegetated. The the activity that we're doing out there does not encroach on the vegetation at all. And then I really think if you're a trail user, you're not apt to go kind of walking through the vegetation. It's really not inviting, I wouldn't say. So it's possible that you could kind of trek across, but most of those natural areas don't encourage that kind of off the trail action. So.
Thank you. I think that's all for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here today. I appreciate the additional information. I'm curious when you talk about extensions, and it was an extension for 6. So I'm trying to decide or understand when this started with you all being there working on the site with the stormwater, and I understand the importance. Yep. And then there was an extension, and then there's another extension I'm trying to understand what that means, and then also trying to understand when there was extensions, was there any outreach to neighbors just to have them understand why and work with, hey, is there any concerns? What can we do to make this better for you? Mm-hmm. I'm curious about that.
Yep. So the first part of your question about timeline, we began the project construction in July of 24, knowing at the whole time that it would be about a 2-year duration. We were not aware that we were in code violation until about July of this year. So at that time, the idea was to request an extension from the director so that we would have time to prepare an appeal, because we knew that we would need more than 6 months for the project to be completed. So that's the reasoning for the extension and then another extension request.
That's helpful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then my next question is, two more questions, Madam Chair. Can you go back and clarify me, before the stormwater, what was the city using it beforehand?
Our stormwater superintendent is here, and he may be able to help answer some questions. But generally, it was utilized for small capital work, and there was some occasional dirt storage used to support some of that work.
Right. Good afternoon. My name is Doug Groves. I'm the stormwater maintenance manager for Collins Utilities. Me and my team have operated the site in the past, and this essentially functioned as a waste diversion from the landfill. We successfully, because of the work at the site, we successfully diverted 5,000 to 10,000 tons of dirt from the landfill annually. That's an average over this period of time. So we have a construction operation that has a dirt waste product, or just extra dirt. And so we were able to essentially reuse that material by sifting it on site and diverting a bulk of that waste from the Larimer County landfill. And so that was a part-time operation. Looking forward, I think it's been covered, but just to reiterate, we have abandoned our operations at that site, and we'll be supporting the abandonment of the site and its restoration along with the project when it's completed. So we'll be supporting the restoration.
Great.
effort.
And I think that will bridge off to my next question is, when we talk about restoration of the site, what does that look like? Because it sounds like there's been some industrial uses, and I hear diesel, and I think, contaminants. What kind of process will that look like for the neighbors? Just especially since some of them had concerns, and so they can see an end in sight. Maybe this is what it might look like, no more dirt piles. Maybe I'm envisioning this. I haven't been out there. And then how you're going to get back to its original state. Because it sounds like this has been happening long before the Oak Street project. So I'm just trying to understand the full context of the property for a few years. So.
Right. So we'll start with the perimeter fencing would be permanently removed. That's a visual barrier. as well as taking the grade down to the original elevations before dirt was placed on site. We would imagine that that elevation would grow a little bit over time, so getting that back down. And we have a good record of how that existed prior to our activities. And then working with our natural areas staff to be able to develop the right seed mixtures that would blend in with the rest of the site.
That's helpful. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have for now. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Sure.
Did you have another one, Commissioner? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, folks. Just so, and maybe you spoke to this and I may have not heard, but I'm wondering, in terms of sequence of events, and when was the natural area established? When did storage, adjacent to that natural area begin? Because I thought I heard it's Holly, I think, or
Yes,
that I heard that there have been smaller capital projects where there's been some storage of equipment. So I guess I'm wondering when, a couple of questions in there, when was it established as a natural area? When did you start storing dirt and other things there? And it seems like that's not normal to do that kind of storage next to a natural area. So maybe you could explain that, please. Thank you kindly.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Approximately 2012 was when our team began using that site for the dirt recycling program. I believe the natural area designation occurred after that time. Does that sound
I
about
would
right?
say so, but I don't have the year.
But after.
After.
Thank you. 2012. Oh, one quick follow-up, if I may, Madam Chair, then I believe I'll be done. I may have a question of our engineering staff. Don't want them to get off too easy. And that is, are there other options for this type of storage? I mean, the city has all kinds of parcels of land. Was that ever a consideration, especially since it seems to be impacting, folks in that neighborhood? Thank you.
Yes, and it is our operations have been combined with an existing streets recycling facility at Hoffman Mill Road. It's northeast of LeMay and Riverside Avenue. And so we've been wanting to combine those tasks that streets and utilities have been doing the same work for a long period of time, and now we've combined operations at that location.
I just have, so you, after this project is done, even though you have further work to do on stormwater downtown, or maybe you don't, I think you do probably, you're still going to abandon the site and do the restoration, and further projects, the storage will have to be found somewhere else. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now. Maybe we'll hear from the public, and then we'll bring it back up for rebuttal and any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move into public comment now. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to give public comment? No. Is there, Ryan, can we ask if there's anyone online who would like to give public comment?
If there are any members of the public online who would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We have no hands raised.
Okay. We'll just, we'll close public comment just by saying that we did receive some emails and some information about some of the concerns on the site. And we've kind of been asking some of those questions, some of them around pollution, both air and noise pollution and visual pollution, smelling diesel smoke, feeling like there's an industrial storage site behind the property, and that didn't necessarily feel like that felt like a zoning violation in with this particular person's comments. So any further, since there's no, there was nobody here to give public comment, there's no need for rebuttal, but any further questions from the commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Shannon McNally. And I guess you guys might want to be prepared to come up.
I'm not sure who to ask this for, but I have a couple questions. First question is, with,
Is this of staff or is this the applicant?
I think this might be an applicant.
Okay.
It says one of the conditions of approval is the temporary construction use on this property shall be discontinued and all the construction materials removed on before December 31st. So is it, I wanted to clarify my understanding that there's a shift now that the activity at that site's going to start to slowly decrease, or will this be the same activity level and noise and activity until December 31st? What does that look like? Sorry, I want to make sure you get your steps in today.
Yeah, thank you for asking for the clarification. The kind of robust activity of construction is going to continue until about August of next year, and then the project itself is going to be completed. At that time, the contractor that works for the Oak Street project will remove all the extra material, the storage containers, the dirt. They will vacate the site. That'll be the first step. That'll happen in probably August, early September. Once they have vacated the site, then city staff will take over restoration of the property, which means we will be further removing some dirt. The pad site that's been created where all the storage is happening will be removed back to existing grades. The access road from Vine Drive will also be removed, and then it'll be revegetated. And we expect that time frame is going to take a couple of months to get completed. So that's kind of why we're requesting to the end of next year, just to give a little bit of grace to get that restoration done.
Great, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't think my other question is for you. I think it's for my staff, our staff now. Okay. So thank you. Appreciate you clarifying that. That's very helpful. So I'm glad I asked her that order. So for staff, and I don't know if it's Leah or Cassie wants to, there has been discussion about the diesel smell and the noise. So it sounds like the staff might go out and monitor that, so we could make sure that's within the limits. And then there also, I don't know what all day long means, but it sounds like it's a lot. So is there noise levels and timing, and that's going to be addressed, or will that be addressed with the conditions, or will you go out and check that, and what does that look like, just so the neighbors want to make sure we're addressing the neighbors' concerns, what they have been experiencing. So I just want to make sure that's the reason for my question, because even though there's a end in sight on the horizon, there's still a lot to experience until then.
Yeah, and I can start before I pass it over to Leah. There's no specific condition of approval that's proposed because they would need to follow the noise ordinance regardless. If we did receive another complaint, we could certainly send someone out at any time to go and monitor that. It is my understanding that the same complaint has occurred, and most of it predates the city working with us to apply for this extension, sort of prior to them knowing that it was a code violation. So we are actively working to make the situation better on site for neighbors. I did speak with a number of other neighbors just because they couldn't identify the parcel since there's no address, and they were very understanding of the situation. But I think I'll turn it over to Leah just to talk about what that enforcement could look like.
Yeah, we'll have staff go out and kind of monitor the site. We have a noise meter that we can use to make sure that they're following the noise ordinance. The one tricky part is that it's considered construction, and that decibel level is allowed to be a little louder. But we can make sure that it's within those parameters. City of Fort Collins too could volunteer to do some noise mitigation things. Like they have burns on site, but it would be great if they were between the neighbors and their operation site. And then another option that OSHA allows, as long as the surrounding noise is not too loud, you can use white noise backup beepers too on the trucks that kind of help. Those are two of the backup beepers are usually the noisiest things. And then for emissions, even a burn could help a little bit with that. But we would go out. We have a nasal ranger. We can go out and do some odor readings and just see how bad it is, because there's also emissions, the concentration of emissions, how much of, how much can we visibly see coming from the engines, things like that. So there's a number of things that our staff will have to evaluate out in the field.
Okay, that's helpful, and I appreciate that level of detail. Just trying to, address the neighbors' concerns, and I can understand not wanting to have that smell come in your yard and your house, and I can see that could be a problem. So I think that's all I have right now, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cavallis, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just perhaps a question for Aaron with our engineering folks. It looks like there are conditions of approval 4 and 5, one having to do with a second access not being allowed to the site, and the other one having to do with a floodplain development permit. Could you speak to those a little bit more? Explain them, please.
Yes, according to our urban area street standards, they do currently have two accesses, and it would a strict interpretation of the land use code in our urban area street standards would say only one. So we provided that comment of please remove the additional access. After some internal discussion in engineering, their response to that comment was we will address that at the reconstitution of the site when the temporary construction is complete, and we are willing to accept that compromise. In regards to the floodplain situation, this is a City of Fort Collins local municipal floodplain that has been adopted by Larimer County. Now, there is an updated version that removes this stretch from floodplain. We have not, that's part of a larger West Vine floodplain master plan update that we are working on that will soon be going to you guys' desk to adopt the revised floodplain. But as of today, the Larimer County still regulates that floodplain. And so this is compliance for the construction activity of the floodplain.
So as a quick follow-up, the construction activity, the storage activity has been occurring without the floodplain development permit? How could that occur?
So activity began in 2012, as they mentioned. We were aware of it when this co-compliance case became active, and as soon as we were aware, we directed them to pursue a floodplain permit, development permit. And it's really a very small stretch of floodplain that cuts right through their access road. The main storage area yard is not within the floodplain. It's just a very, very small stretch. And updated modeling that the city actually completed removes that from the floodplain, which again, like I said, will be incorporated by resolution here in the future.
And finally, thank you very much, Aaron. I mean, I guess I'm reading this to say that as a condition of approval, they have to submit that permit application, while the construction activity is occurring. So that's something that needs to happen sooner than later. Is that correct?
Correct, and they've already submitted
Okay.
A stamped documentation of no adverse impact and a hydraulic analysis.
Okay,
memo. So
great.
That is proceeding.
That's proceeding. Thank you very much. Thanks, colleagues.
So while there aren't conditions of approval, we can add conditions of approval. Is that correct?
So there are currently 5 conditions of approval, and we can add more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you remind me where those are? What page?
Page 44.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can pull them up on screen too, if that's helpful.
Thank you. I guess I saw those, but I couldn't find. I don't know why I couldn't find those. Yeah, the second half, because that was point. So we can add to those. I guess I want to ask the applicants a little bit about, some of the things that have been talked about today. If the applicants have thought about berms or the white noise for the backup beepers, or even it seemed like there was a page, and I guess I should have flagged it, but that where Rebecca Everett was suggesting things like anti-idling with diesel and stuff. So I guess I'm just thinking, what do you think you can do given some of the things from the neighbor or complaints from the neighbors? I mean, I know City of Fort Collins cares about these issues, air quality and quality of life issues, and so are there any things that you would propose doing, or you think that you know? I guess I'd just like to hear from you after hearing from the neighbors and some of that. How you would propose to sort of talk to the neighbors, not just we're going to be done in August, but maybe some things that you would be willing to contemplate as we kind of look to make things better for these neighbors.
And Madam Chair, that's on page 62 of that area if you want to look at the letter from Rebecca.
Rebecca's. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for another opportunity to speak. Yeah, I think white noise backup beepers would be a good idea. I think one of the, I'm going to say potentially loudest elements of what we do out there is we have tandem dump trucks coming and going. When they drop dirt, their tailgate slams, and that actually creates a higher decibel than just about anything else that we could do. So you could, do something that's a little less aggravating for the rest of the equipment, and we can certainly look into that. However, that doesn't really take away some of the other things that are tough to mitigate for, which is the tailgate slamming. So that's a condition that we kind of have to live with, unfortunately. I do think that it might be a good idea to consider trying to do some additional berming on the west side of the site and minimize the activity that we have on the west side. We certainly have a lot of dirt that we bring out there, so that would be something that's probably pretty easy for us to try to incorporate. We are limited to 10 feet tall for any kind of dirt storage. That's a city requirement, and it's probably a county requirement as well. So 10 feet would be the maximum we could achieve in terms of a dirt berm.
Great.
Also idling, yes, I actually have a lot of no idling signs on the job site because I like to try to enforce the same thing at the project site itself. I would be happy to add a couple of signs to the job site. The few times that I've been out to Vine Drive recently to kind of observe what they're doing out there, there's oftentimes a person kind of waiting with a loader, waiting for dirt to come and go. He's there to kind of help that operation of either loading dirt up or taking dirt and moving it around. They will sit and they will turn the equipment off. So I don't think idling is typically an issue with the equipment that's sitting there. It's more about the tandem dump trucks coming and going, which is tougher to kind of mitigate for. But I actually am kind of excited about the county helping to do some air quality monitoring because I just think that would be a really good way to understand exactly where we're at.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Anything else, Commissioners? Do you have a question about that?
So I appreciate you stating that. So are you willing to do these measures? And maybe we don't need to make a condition of approval. It sounds like this property is maybe the city looking to further annex it as an open space anyway, or whatever. That's a long time. But this is we're talking about the next 9 months to a year of activity. So, we could make this a condition of approval, but if the city is willing to do it, I don't know if we need to. And maybe work with Leah's got some great suggestions, I think. And I think Rebecca had put that in the letter. So, are you as an applicant stating that you'd be willing to do some of these mitigation measures? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the one that I guess I would like a little more feedback on the white noise backup sound. That's certainly something that I can require my contractor to do. It would be easier if it was a condition.
Okay.
And if that's something that's really important.
I think, Madam Chair, if my colleagues are open to that, I think that we could just go ahead and make those some conditions if that helps for Fort Collins with the contractor. I do believe the city is I'd take them at their word, but if that she just stated, then I'd be willing to add maybe a sixth condition to add the backup, white noise backup. Lee, what did you call it?
Backup beeps. It's a very technical term. White noise backup alarms. It is. It's okay. OSHA requires at least you have to have a very significant alarm. They don't necessarily say sound or anything, but if you use this noise as your alarm, or rather than a visual, it just has to be louder than the surrounding area, which I assume a white noise backup beeper would be louder than that area. And we're happy to go out and do some noise readings first. I don't know if, because if we do a 10-foot berm, that might be a pretty good source, because as long as you block the line of sight from the receptor, that's usually a really good buffer. But we would still have, noise kind of radiating out elsewhere. So I'm open to either we go out and work with them and then we implement some best management practices based on that. But I really like the berms. I think that's a great place to start. And then the white noise backup beepers, you can retrofit an existing, any of your construction equipment, you can retrofit one of those in.
Okay, that's helpful.
It might be
So yeah, maybe the condition can be, work with Department of Health and Environment to mitigate noise from either berms or the
Best-
white noise backup cameras.
Yeah, best practices, white and the lesser. I won't say lesser, but a choice of options, just so you know.
And then the anti-idling, if additional signs might help or something else might help, because obviously we have pretty bad ground level ozone issues, especially on the west side of town. So anything that we can do to prohibit that idling. It sounds like maybe there's not a ton of it that's going on, but anything, every bit helps. It's just obviously not great for people breathing, and it has a cumulative effect. So I think that would be good. So maybe we can figure out kind of how to make those, incorporating some measure to both reduce air pollution and noise pollution, as guided by the Department of Health or something to that effect.
And I do appreciate, Madam Chair, the city being willing and partnering to. I think we all are on the same page. We want to reduce impacts to neighbors, and especially with it being diesel and smells and noise. And I think that I really appreciate your willingness and the conversation we just had. Thank you.
Commissioner Collins, anything you wanted to add to this conversation?
Yes, I would. And I'm understanding that we're looking at three particular areas, or at least the issue of establishing a berm on the west side to help with those homes that are off of Taft Hill there, I think.
Yes, correct.
And then also looking at the matter of backup, or whatever it's called, the white noise.
The backup alarms.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, are we also adding that you've offered to put more signs out there to try to address the idling. So maybe we're including those three.
And it sounded like it might be easier to require the backup white noise so that the contractor would comply. So maybe that piece could be non-negotiable.
That's it.
So thank you. Anything else before we let the applicant sit down? Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I do have a proposed revised condition.
Perfect.
If you would like to see that. As we were drafting these, Aaron did bring to my attention just that any berm should probably not be located in the floodplain area that's currently designated. So I've tweaked the wording a little bit to make that happen. Let me share this. So you'll be looking at condition number 6 is the new addition.
That looks great. I think that the applicant had also suggested maybe minimizing some activities on one of the sides of the property. Is that right? The west side or something? Is that? Maybe we can just add that as one of the potential inclusions. Sorry, Cassie, you had it all good. And
It's all good.
all right. So we'll read that. I'll just going to read that so that the public can hear it. It's best practices for noise mitigation measures, such as additional berms, no idling signage, limited activities in certain areas of the site, and required white noise backup alarm shall be implemented in consultation with the Larimer County Department of Health and Environment and Larimer County Engineering. Do we feel good about that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, Madam Chair, I appreciate that. I think that really satisfies my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, are we ready to move into deliberation? Commissioner Collins, you want to get us started?
Yes, thank you. I think we've kind of already gotten into deliberation. I appreciate the additional conditions of approval. I appreciate the City of Fort Collins being willing to do additional mitigation to address concerns that we've received from the neighbors. It looks like the review criteria for this extension have been met according to our community development staff, our planner. So I will support the appeal application certainly with the additional condition of approval. And I guess as if I may, just a quick comment also, and that is in reviewing the comments, the written comments from I think it was Zach Scott, who I think was here and then left. He does speak with. He does speak to once all the equipment, all of that is removed, and it's the process of restoring that natural area. He suggests that there needs to be somehow an assessment if any kind of contamination has occurred, as a result of big dump trucks and all of that. But I would assume that that's part of the reclamation, the restoration of that natural area, that they'll look to see if there was any kind of contamination. Is that correct? Can we ask them to come back, please?
I believe I asked that similar question earlier, Commissioner, and I do think they had addressed that it would be a process that they would do a restoration and do evaluation of the soils and stuff. And I did think I had asked that question earlier, and they had addressed that.
Thank you. Then no need for you to come on back. Thank you. So I'm fine with supporting this.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
A lot of times land use hearings and post reviews and stuff can be uncomfortable, and I just wanted to say I appreciate the City of Fort Collins coming today and the neighbors being here and present and the comments that were sent and our staff and their diligent work, because I think we all understand the importance of the Oak Street project and some of that for the city and reducing that. Certainly, we have lived through that for the last year or so, and so with it outside our building. But I do understand how this has been disruptive for quality of life and could be a detriment to smelling diesel. I don't think any of us want to smell diesel in our backyard or our house. And so I really I do feel like this has been a really great conversation today. And I want to thank the City of Fort Collins and the City of Fort Collins staff being here today and really looking at working together to find solutions and address the concerns of the neighbor, because I know we share the same values about air quality and health and environment and taking care of our neighbors and being responsive. And I want to thank staff for explaining there's some complexities with that, with the floodplain. And thank you, Aaron, for flagging that other condition. I appreciate that. And I wanted to thank the neighbors too for speaking up, because sometimes it's easy just to kind of live with it, but it's not okay to live with it. You know, we're all entitled to breathe clean air, and the dust and the noise. I can imagine that would be much fun. So I just wanted to say I appreciate the additional conditions of approval. I appreciate staff partnering with the city and working through this. It's been, I think, a win-win here at the end, hopefully, and their end's almost in sight. And I appreciate learning too that you're combining efforts and locations. That's great to know. And I think this will be a wonderful open space in about a year or so. So I'm excited to learn and hear about that. So I do feel with all of this and with the additional condition of approval, it meets all the criteria and for the appeals and the staff have laid out all of the uh, findings that has met. And I had just had one concern about will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and property values in the neighborhood, but the discussion, this additional condition of approval, though that concern has been addressed for me. So and since that. Those criteria and that concern for me has been addressed, I can support this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I'll also be in support of the application with the conditions that were listed. And there again, I thank you for being amenable to those considerations. Really want to thank the neighbors for identifying this. It's I'm sorry we didn't know about it sooner, and we couldn't have worked with Department of Health. And so for anyone listening, please know that Department of Health and Environment is a resource for people who are struggling with both noise and air pollution concerns. We don't always know until we hear from folks. So we were glad to be able to address that. And I mean, it's a good project, and I think these conditions will make it better for the people who live around this area, and it'll ultimately be best when it's fully restored and returned to a natural area in full. So with that, I will ask Commissioner Kafalis to make the motion on this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, what do you know? I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the City of Fort Collins appeal file number 25-GNRL 0578, subject to the conditions as recommended in the staff report and the additional condition added at the November 17th, 2025 land use hearing.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. That is the last of the business to come before us for our 3:00 hearing. And so we will be, we also have a 6:30 hearing, so stay tuned for that. But we are adjourned for this hearing. Thank you.